Or it's possible that the milk isn't considered a real substance here. Milk is maybe just considered a flavor. So there is no substance here. But nevertheless, this no substance that's giving the flavor is biblically forbidden. And Bais says everywhere it's biblically forbidden, not only by milk and meat. Because if I say it's only rabbinic, well, by basar b'chalav it's clearly not the case like that. By basar b'chalav it's clearly the flavor is all I need to make it non-kosher. It's clearly just the flavor. It's not the actual substance. It's the flavor that's given. So, if
all basar b'chalav?
Well, it could be not like that, but it's very probable that basar b'chalav is either a piece of meat that fell into milk, and I take the piece of meat out, and all I'm left with the flavor in the milk, or I have a drop of milk that fell in meat, and it gets absorbed, and there's no substance there. So it's very common for it to be only flavor. Now, if that's the case, so we should learn from there to everywhere else in the Torah that just the flavor is biblically forbidden, not rabbinic. Because if I say it's only rabbinic, in other cases, why don't I learn from basar b'chalav? I should learn that that's a precedent for everywhere else. Now, maybe I'm going to say...
What's everywhere else?
Well, nevela and chalev and other treifa foods. Well, maybe I'm going to say that basar b'chalav the chidushu, because it's basar b'chalav itself is a chiddush. It's a unique case. You can't use that as a precedent. That's so unique that can't teach me anything about anywhere else. Rashi says, what's the chiddush of basar b'chalav? He gives two possibilities. One is the chiddush of basar b'chalav. If it's the Rashi on I chiddush, Gomrina the chiddush. It's the third of the middle wide lines. He says the chiddush is that both of them are permissible, but nevertheless, when you mix them together, they become forbidden. That's very unique. Another possibility is that if I let milk and meat sit together the whole day, it's permissible biblically. It's only if they're cooked that it becomes biblically forbidden. Derech bishul needs to be cooked to make it forbidden. So that's a chiddush, because I won't say that if I have a piece of treifa meat sitting in my soup. I would say that it's considered like pickled or something, and I can't eat any of the mixture. But by basar b'chalav, it's biblically permitted.
Because it says lo savashil.
Because it says like savashil, it needs to be in a way of cooking. So now, but the problem is, if I say that it's unique and I can't learn from there, if it is unique, a chiddush, it's a novelty, then it should be usher even into 1,000. Why do we say that milk and meat is 1 in 60? I don't say that by shatnez. If I have a piece of linen that mixes into a wool garment, it doesn't say 1 in 60. But by basar b'chalav, I learned from the other halachas of nazir. When we cooked the riyam of the nazir, we said that because the leg is 160 into the rest of the animal, so you see, I take the laws of nazir and I apply it to basar b'chalav. That means that it's not a big chiddush. If it would be unique, I wouldn't be able to learn from nazir to basar b'chalav. You'd say, oh, basar b'chalav is different. But since I'm able to compare them back and forth, I'm learning from nazir to basar b'chalav. That 1 in 60 is nullified. Now I can automatically learn from basar b'chalav to everywhere else. That just like basar b'chalav, the flavor is biblically forbidden, so to everywhere else it's biblically forbidden. Amalei Rava tells him back, you have no proof. Your proof is that we're learning from other sources to basar b'chalav. Basar b'chalav itself has its own source. And what is that source? Derech bishul asur Torah. The Torah says that it has to be cooked. And you would never add an ingredient into something that didn't give a flavor. Why would I add something an ingredient in? Because I want it to taste like that. I want to give a flavor.
More protein.
More, yeah, right. But there has to be some significance. But if I'm adding...
texture or color or...
Okay, but it has to have some effect. So if I'm adding milk to meat, it has to be, that's the way of cooking. I'm doing it for some effect. It needs to be 1 in 60. It's not because I'm learning from nazir, and we can compare basar b'chalav to other cases. Rava says no. Basar b'chalav is
Standalone.
This independent set of laws, which is very unique, and it doesn't teach me anything about anything else. How do I know it's 1 in 60? That I know because the Torah says Basar B'chalav needs to be cooked, and it has to be done in the way of cooking. And the way of cooking is that you add an ingredient it's meant to have an effect, which is 1 in 60. Tosfos says that Rava doesn't really mean this. He's just trying to tell Abaya that he doesn't have a proof. Because Rava really holds that Tam Ki'ikr, that the flavor is really deraisa. Rashi, on the other hand, on Tzadches says that Rava really means it, and Rava holds that Tam Ki'ikr is derabanan. So the machlekes here, if Rava really means, so when we talk about machlekes Rishonim or machlekes and halacha, how do they get it? The question is, when Rava is refuting Abaya, does he mean what he's saying, or is he just telling him that he doesn't have a proof? That could be a source for machlekes. Amar Rav. Rav says, Kivan shnasan tam b'chaticha. Once the flavor gets the taste of the milk, chaticha atzma nasas nevela, then the meat itself becomes nevela, becomes not kosher. Va'iseres kol chatichas kulam pnei sheimina. So it's not the milk that's giving the non-kosher flavor here. The meat becomes non-kosher. And because Rav holds min b'mina is loy batal, that the same type of flavor, in the same type of flavor, doesn't get nullified. And on the contrary, it strengthens it, it's never nullified. The flavor of meat is now non-kosher. Together with other meat, the whole pot is not kosher.
Why is it called nevela now?
Oh, this is a term that chaticha atzmanasas nevela, that it's not the milk and meat in here that's not kosher. It's the meat itself becomes non-kosher because it has milk in it.
Just as if the meat were a nevela.
As if it's nevela, right?
No, because the meat was properly shechted, so therefore it can't be treif. It can only be nevela in terms of.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. We're not gonna. We use we would call it treif, because that's the term that we use. The Gemara's term was nevela.
Different slang.
Right.
Yeah, but previously we talked about one was
There's a
imparting
difference,
tuma
right.
and one isn't.
Right.
And I
It's
still
true. It's
can't
not
remember which
an
one is.
accurate. Marzutra Breder of Mari. Amalei Marzutra Breder of Mari la Ravina. Marzutra, the son of Rav Mari, says to Ravina. This may be here. This may be Marzutra to Ravina. And down here on the bottom. Marzutra's Michti. Let's see. Or now that. Rav Kaman Amal Shmaite. Who does Rav hold like? Rabbi Yehuda. He holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Kaman Amal Shmaite. According to whom did he say his teaching? Rabbi Yehuda like Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar that Rabbi Yehuda says, Min b'minai, the same type, one type in its same type, Loi batal is not nullified. Now if that's the case, Leima pliga de Rava, let's say that Rav argues on Rava. We had Rava before. The Amar Rava says, Kasava Rabbi Yehuda holds, Kol shumin b'mine v'davar acher. If I have two mixtures here, one thing that's not kosher, together with the same type that is kosher, let's say meats, one piece of kosher meat, one piece of non-kosher meat, together with other kosher meats. And I have also a bunch of vegetables in the pot. V'davar acher. There's other things in the pot. So I have two sort of mixtures here. Rava said that according to Rabbi Yehuda, Silakes mina kamisheina, ignore the same type, which would never be nullified. V'she'ena mina rabba alav, let the other type, the vegetables, nullify the non-kosher piece of meat, umavatlai, and nullify it. Then I'll add figuratively, I'll add the same type back in, and everything was kosher already. And according to this, we're not doing this. Why? Because Rav said that this piece of meat would make the whole pot not kosher. What about the rest of the pot? I could take the rest of the pot to nullify that one piece of meat, and then add the meats back in, figuratively, add them back into the mixture, and it was already nullified. Everything here is kosher.
So when you say use the rest of the pot, you're talking about the sauce?
The sauce and all of the
So
other
it was
stuff.
a bottle of a shishim
Yeah,
of the meat.
right.
And that's not considered min b'mina? The sauce is not like
So
considered...
look at this. Amalei, he says to him, Eden afal b'reit vraka hachanami. You're right. If it fell into a soft mixture, just a liquid, You're right. Hachamay skin nafel breit of ava fell into a thick mixture where it's all meat. The whole sauce is just meat. The whole thing is meat. So the meat becomes treif, nevela, basar b'chalav. Even the meat flavor itself, and so therefore the meat flavor in the rest of the pot is min v'minai. That's what we're talking. The Gemara now says, "My kasavar." What does he hold? Ikasavar efshel esaychtei mutter. This is an interesting discussion that the Gemara has. If I take a piece of meat that has milk in it, and you cook it in a pot that has 60 times the milk or the meat or whatever, it's 60 times this. Can I say that the milk flavor was laundered out of the meat, and the first piece of meat should become back to being mutter? Because what does nullification mean? Nullification means that it spreads evenly throughout the everywhere, and it doesn't have the flavor. It becomes permissible. Can the first piece of meat also become permissible when you have so much? It's efshel l'seichte. Efshel l'seichte means, is it possible to squeeze it out? Now, the term here, efshel l'seichte mutter. If I say that it's, does he hold efshel l'seichte mutter? If that's the case, so chaticha mainasas nevela. So how could we say that the meat itself becomes nevela? It's impossible to say that the meat flavor becomes nevela if I can squeeze the milk out, because then it can't be nevela. If the milk comes out, then the meat wasn't kosher. The meat was never not kosher. The meat is kosher. Elakasavar, it must be that he holds efshel l'seichte yaser, that you can never squeeze the milk totally out, and the meat, and this piece of meat will remain aser.
It's like a kli rishon.
That it absorbs it better. The itmar, that it was a statement of Amiraim. This is a very interesting combination. Rab Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan. Rab Chanina is up here. Rabbi Chanina bar Chama, and Rabbi Yochanan. Rab Chanina and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chanina, Chaim pointed out that he was the doctor, right? Remember that? Mm-hmm. Very important early Eretz Yisrael Amay, Rabbi Chanina bar Chama. The Amri, that they say efshel l'seichte yaser. They say that you can never squeeze the piece of meat out from its forbidden flavor. Shmuel v'Rab Shimon bar Rabbi v'Reish Lakish. Shmuel, on the other hand, Rab Shimon bar Rabbi. I don't have on this chart Rab Shimon bar Rabbi, but in this chart you have Rab Shimon bar Rabbi. Shimon bar Rabbi and Reish Lakish. They hold leniently that efshel l'seichte mutter. Okay. Now the Gemara asks, "B'savar Rav efshel l'seichte yaser." Does Rav really hold that he can never squeeze out the forbidden flavor? Itmar, but it was stated. Itmar is a compound word. Is amar. Is means there is. Amar, a saying. It means it has been stated. Kazayis basar shenafel l'techir shel chalav. A kazayis of meat that fell into a vat of milk, a pot of milk. Amar Rav, basar aser v'chalav mutter. The meat is forbidden, and the milk is permissible, because you took the meat out. But if we say that you can never squeeze the flavor out, so listen to this. This is a little bit counterintuitive. Chalav amay mutter. Why is the milk permissible? Chalav nevelahu.
This is all talking me the right, so none of this is the Rabbanan.
Right.
You have to qualify that.
Right. But listen to what's happening here. The milk that got absorbed into the meat absorbs the flavor from the meat that's inside the. There's milk. There's a piece of meat here. Here's a piece of meat. There's milk that's absorbed into this meat. We said that all the meat becomes nevela. There's milk that got absorbed into this meat. Now, the milk that's in this meat is also nevela. Now, that milk got absorbed inside and now comes out into the rest of the pot of milk. Is it min b'minai? It's min b'minai. So why do we say that the milk is permissible? Unless I can say that I can squeeze the flavor of the meat out of the liquid milk. But Rav says Efshel Seichta is also, you can't squeeze it out. So the milk that comes out has the absorbed flavor of meat, which I can never take out of that milk, and therefore the milk is prohibited, and all the milk is min b'minay as well. So the Gemara says, Lo'ilam Kasav Rav Efshel Seichta Yasser. No, it's not a kasha. Because Rav does hold that you can never squeeze the flavor out. B'shani Hasan, but over there it's different. The Amar Kra, the pasuk says, "Leisavashal gedi b'chalevi mayi." Don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. Gedi aser Torah v'lei chalav. The Torah only forbade the meat, not the milk. Never heard of this before. It's very interesting. So you can't eat milk and meat, but that's because of the meat, not because of the milk.
From the Torah.
From the Torah.
All the time.
Yeah, but we have a good reason for. I mean, if you want to apply a reason, otherwise it's obviously a chop. Is that we had previously said that it was painful to the mother for this. Well, obviously, if the mother's. Well, it would pain for a mother to see her
The kid.
kid, being cooked in milk, but the cows are always giving off milk. They don't care. They give off the milk. There's no pain in that. You know what I'm saying? So, therefore, the whole Inyan was towards the gedi itself and not towards the milk. Therefore, the milk had no yeshus for the most part. It was hefker as far as the mother was concerned.
Bittul.
Yeah, it's
Kasha. Sisha doctor.
Wow, that's why it's white.
Taisvis,
what?
the white is
That's why it's white.
the kindness of
Of milk? Huh?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Taisvis over here quotes Rabbeinu Shmuel that says that when you need shishim, when you need 60 times in something, you really need, according to the one that holds min b'minai, you need 60 times. And when you have a double mixture, so 60 still works if you hold min b'minai. Because I use the other type to nullify each one, not the same type. If I hold min b'minai as aser, then I can nullify it in other types. Taisus quotes Rabbeinu Shmuel saying that if I have a mixture, I actually need twice 60 in each side, because since the flavor gets absorbed into each one, and that becomes not kosher, so I have to nullify everything here. So the meat has to nullify the milk, let's say, and then the milk has to nullify the meat. So I need twice 60. Taisus argues on that. He says it's not so. He says if I would have salt or spices that absorbed milk or meat or blood or something, I would say that it's nullified in 60. And I don't say that it's not nullified like spices, because I only have to nullify the actual flavor itself. I don't have to nullify what became treif. Again, it can never forbid more than itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
The on time Shabbos, we got a lot to catch up.